So in Basel II, these rules and regulations were actually introduced in 2004, and you should know that this Basel II actually contains uh, the rules and regulations of Basel I, as well as there are also two more rules and regulations introduced in this series, in this accord, that is in the Basel II. So in the first regulations accept the earlier rules and regulations mm, released. The first one is the banking sector should develop a better risk management techniques. Yeah, the techniques should be better so that they could handle those risk management. Sorry, they could handle those risks what they have uh, taken while providing loans to the consumers, like in case if the consumers were unable to pay back those loans. So in order to deal with those situations, the banking sector should have at least such techniques so that they could deal with these situations. And there should be increased disclosure. The banking sector should increase, there must be more transparent. The banking sector should be transparent about the risk factors what they're facing while while lending money to the consumers. You might be knowing about the NPA, that is the non-performing assets. So these non-performing assets are actually those assets which suppose a company provided loan to a company, and later on that company due to some of the frauds or some of the different because of some of the cases they are unable to pay back those loans to the banking sectors or to the banks from where they have actually taken the loans. So so those companies which are unable to pay back those loans becomes the non-performing assets at that moment. So at those times the banking sectors were not usually disclosing about these risk factors, but around 2000, from 2014 or 2013, uh, the disclosure by the banking sectors to its central bank, that is the, in case of India, that is the RBI, it has become more. Whatever the banking sectors are facing, the risk they are exposing it, so that it will become easy by the central banks and as well as the group of banking sector to take major steps to actually they could deal with this situation. So in these regulations, it has been told to the banks that the disclosure should be maintained, the transparency should be maintained. And the second thing is that the banks need to mandatorily disclose the risk exposure to central bank. That is, I was talking before also that whatever risk the banks are facing, that should be disclosed to the central banks. Whatever countries like USA has its different central banks, India has different, like India has RBI. So whatever risk the banks are facing, that should be disclosed to its central bank. And after that the banks that is the central bank actually central bank of the country actually provides the biannual financial stability reports. These are the reports given by the RBI twice in a year, which describes about the annual financial stability what the country is going through. So these were all about the Basel 2. So now move on to the Basel 3. And before talking about the Basel 3, let's discuss about what caused the BCBS to introduce the Basel 3. Yeah, it was actually the 2008 global financial crisis. So let's discuss about that thing first. About that. Actually, there was a global financial crisis on 2008. Mm, this is also called as the most serious financial crisis since the Greatest Depression of the 1930s. Actually, the world, the whole banking sector, the economic condition of the country, the whole world was actually unstabilized at that moment. Financially, there was literally a very great crisis going on 2008 due to the happenings or the situations developed by the banking sector on around 2006 or 2007. That actually, you know that in those year, that is in between 2006 and 2007, uh, there were the particular banking sectors who were providing loans on credit on numerously, like they were providing loans frequently, and due to this, the bank were unable to recover those amounts, and which actually resulted in the global financial crisis, and it also affected the Asian markets like China, Hong Kong, Japan, and India. Yeah, India was also one country which got affected by this financial crisis. There are actually the certain causes which actually mm, because of those causes only in the 2008 financial crisis were evolved, and why actually this happened. So let us see why it actually happened. So what are the causes of 2008 financial crisis? So the first causes, as you can see, is the bursting out of the US housing bubble. So what is this US housing bubble? Actually, this is a firm related to the real estate business. So in 2006 and 7, there were huge demand of lands or housing property by the consumers for certain area. So because of that, there were there were rise in amount of housing prices because of certain demand of those land and those land and the housing properties. So eventually this gave rise to more purchase of lands and housing properties, and due to this the banking system, actually the banking industry started mm, giving the consumers uh, huge amount of loans on credit, and this resulted in future that there was so much amount of people who have taken loan to buy or to purchase those properties, and they were unable to recover, and later on it was found out that the banks were unable to recover those amounts. So the US housing bubble, that is which peaked in 2006 and 7, was also reason which caused the 2008 financial crisis. And the other reasons, like the US banking sectors or the industries were providing loans to the consumers frequently, even it was cheap, like it was easily cheaply it was available there, so that anybody could get loan from a bank. So easy, due to the easy availability of the credit in the US, the 2008 financial crisis was also caused, and also you are also familiar with the things that the banks usually do, that they doesn't take the risk management techniques, and because of that only too much of risk taking, mm, the crisis also results. And like the key policy makers were ill prepared for the crisis and lacking a full understanding of the finance system, they oversaw. Yeah, in this point, you can see that the policy makers usually were not even prepared for the future. See, there are certain types of policy makers who usually have a backup plan for the future things. So whatever happens in the future, so like whatever risk they went through, or whatever problems the banking sector went through, they should have at least a backup plan in order to deal with that. So in this 2008 financial crisis, there were certain the policy makers usually they were not prepared for such situations. So this also resulted, and this financial crisis were not handled at that moment. So now let's talk about the Basel III, when it actually got introduced and why it got introduced. Actually, in response to the financial crisis in 2008, like we earlier discussed in our uh, earlier slides about the financial crisis which happened in 2008. So, with response to that crisis in 2010, this Basel 3 was actually introduced. So, what are the objectives of this Basel 3? So, it actually focuses on making the most banking activities more capital intensive. Um, so now the banking sectors, this BCBS has told about the regulations in the Basel 3 about is that there must be maintenance of the more capital intensive, that is in Basel 2 it was fixed at around 2.5 something, that is the capital equity ratio, but in the Basel 3 it has increased from 2 capital equity ratio from 2 point around 5% to 4% around. So this has been done to increase the capital intensive. So the other point, like it it regulates the Basel III regulates is that the banking system should be resilient, that it should be strong in response to the 2008 financial crisis. The banking system should maintain itself, that in future if they come across with such financial crisis again, they will be ready for that thing also. So for this, they have actually maintained the four parameters, like there should be more capital require maintenance, leverages, funding, and liquidity. And if you're talking about the funding and liquidity should be maintained in the form of gold or in the form of cash. Yeah, there is, about the SLR, that is the statutory liquidity ratio, which is fixed at around 20% now currently, which actually says that the banking sector should maintain the liquidity ratio at around 20% in the form of either its gold or in the form of cash. So if the banks faces any problem in future, they will be ready to convert any amount in cash immediately. So this liquidity rate should be maintained. So if you're talking about India, this has been extended because the last date was the deadline to follow these regulations were in 2019 March. But now, in order to meet all the requirements under Basel 3, they have actually extended the deadline to March 2020. So in this graph, you can see the TED spread, that is in the red color. It actually tells about the credit risk for this different years. Like in 2006 it was low, below, that is 2007 it again rised, then in 2008, when the world was suffering from the global financial crisis, at that time the credit risk was high. So even the trade spreads, that is it also tells about that due to the excessive credit, mm, like the consumers were actually provided, it actually helped in the financial crisis. So all these were about the Basels and their regulations, which will help the banking sectors. So I hope you would have understand. So thank you.